The Trump White House is giving every indication that the president will decertify Iran's compliance in the landmark nuclear deal.
During a gathering of U.S. military leaders on Thursday night at the White House, President Trump hinted he may pull out of the agreement, leave the next steps to Congress, and hand the Netanyahu government in Israel a major victory. I-24 News diplomatic correspondent Ellie Hockenberg has the latest.
Will he, won't he, the nuclear version? President Trump is expected to drop a diplomatic bombshell.
You guys know what this represents? Well, maybe just the calm before the storm.
What's the storming?
Could be the calm before the storm.
So this not too mild hint triggered much speculation over a potential dramatic announcement by the president, decertifying the nuclear deal with Iran.
The Iranian regime supports terrorism and exports violence, bloodshed, and chaos across the Middle East. That is why we must put an end to Iran's continued aggression and nuclear ambitions. They have not lived up to the spirit of their agreement.
According to reports, Trump is expected to declare decertification as early as next week, kicking the ball into Congress court. That means the Republican-controlled legislator will be the one to decide whether or not to reimpose sanctions. But Trump's plan goes against the opinion of much of his senior staff.
The point I would make is if we can confirm that Iran is living by the agreement, if we can determine that this is in our best interest, then clearly we should stay with it. I believe at this point in time, absent indications to the contrary, it is something the president should consider staying with.
But others beyond U.S. borders are much more excited. Talking to I-24 News, one of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's greatest political allies, Communication Minister Ayub Kara, sees this potential Trump move as a sweeping victory for Netanyahu.
It's very successful for Israel and for Saudi Arabian coalition and for all the Middle East. That means that the Prime Minister Netanyahu was right. And we beginning now with a new relationship with Trump that's become the best president that cooperate with Israel.
But no champagne bottles should be opened yet. Even if Trump will make his big announcement soon, the final verdict will be the one of Congress. So perhaps essentially, Trump decides not to decide.
Thank you, everybody.
Ellie Hochenberg, I-24 News.
For more, we're joined by our senior national correspondent, Michael Shure, our senior diplomatic correspondent, Nina Larsen, and Matthew RJ Brodsky, senior fellow at the Security Studies Group. And Nina, I want to start with you. What's been the world reaction to the indications from the Trump administration that the president will announce next week that he's decertifying Iran's compliance?
Well, there hasn't been much official reaction yet, David, because it's just reports at the moment, although they are reports from reliable sources. I think we'll really be waiting for concrete reaction next week when he gives this speech and to see if he really does decertify the deal. What I can tell you is that European ambassadors in Washington from the UK, from France, from Germany and the EU have all been lobbying Capitol Hill this week, showing a united front, trying to correct some misperceptions about the deal to senators and saying that they very much want the deal to stay in place. They did leave some room for maneuver, however. They said that, look, this issue of Iraq's military sites perhaps being now open to its inspection, that the deal does not rule that out, and Iran has thus far, despite all the inflammatory rhetoric that's been going on, they haven't ruled it out either. So there is some room for maneuver, but I can tell you that the European powers that signed on to this, and China and Russia, of course, will be very dismayed next week. But everyone's waiting to see exactly what President Trump's going to say.
Michael Shure, over to you. You know, President Trump has called the nuclear deal an embarrassment. He said it's one of the worst deals he's seen. As someone who wrote the book famously, The Art of the Deal, this president seems to be saying no deal, no more.
Yeah, Derek, that's true. And it's, I think, very interesting the way that this mirrors the health care debate. These are two deals that were struck in Congress and the White House in a diplomatic way with Iran. But these things are both established now, and you have hardliners on both sides saying, on both issues saying, you know, we have to get rid of it. We have to repeal and replace when it comes to health care. We have to nix this deal when it comes to the Iran deal. But what they're finding is now that these are in place, a lot of people that you thought that the president could count on are saying, wait a second, let's hold our horses here. Let's see if we can fix this. Let's see if there are little tweaks we can do. They did that with health care, and they're doing that now with the Iran deal. And you bring up the Art of the Deal book. Yes, I mean, he has tried to make deals with Congress. None of them have worked, and it'll remain to be seen. There's a lot of work ahead if, in fact, he does decertify next week, Derek.
Matthew Brodsky, does the United States run the risk of perhaps losing credibility, being seen as a nation that can't be trusted when it enters into these agreements?
No, but it'll be seen as a great reminder to anyone in the United States who wants to be president that when you're making something that functions as a treaty, that you have to pass it through Congress like a treaty if it's going to last like a treaty. Anything done by a presidential executive action can be undone by the next president. So that's one major lesson. But another major lesson is that Trump was going to use leverage to redo the deal and to fix a lot of the holes, which, of course, for those on the right who want to walk away from the deal, they want to walk away not because they're warmongers, but because they really don't think that any of these fixes are going to work. And there's merit to their argument as well.
Why would Iran be willing to fix these so-called holes now when they weren't for the previous 13 years before this agreement?
Right. See, that's exactly the position of the people who want to walk away. Why would they do that? And why would the United States do that if they have less leverage now, even by decertifying, than the Obama administration had in 2015? Those are great points. The fact is, though, if the Trump administration threatens that, look, we're just going to walk away from the deal, there's no reason to stay in it. The sunset clauses are horrible. It's bad for everyone. The ballistic missiles are should not be allowed. And their verification regimes is absolutely ridiculous as it is right now. So we're going to walk away, and basically you can deal with us militarily or something else, but this deal as it's structured puts Iran on a glide path. That is what creates the leverage hopefully necessary, if you're in the camp that you want to fix it, to bring Iran to the table. Again, there's a lot of problems with it, and it's a very uphill climb. But you ask exactly the right question. What's the difference? Why is it better now? Why are we going to get more with less? You know, that's a problem.
Nina Larsen, out to you at the United Nations. You know, the president's got us all talking, especially with his cryptic comment calling it the calm before the storm. Is this his apprentice moment as we wait for his formal announcement on whether he'll decertify the Iran nuclear deal? Or is this just his way of leading us up to the decision?
I think he's leading us up to the decision. It was really kind of a not-so-veiled threat, Derricke. I mean, there he was, if you look at the optics, surrounded by the military leadership. But having said that, James Mattis, the Defense Secretary, just days ago was testifying on Capitol Hill, and he was saying that he felt the Iran deal should stay in place. That's the sentiment of the Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, although there are reports that his days might well be numbered. This is a very, very serious issue. It's very difficult to see how this can pan out. It will legally go to constitutionally, it will go to Congress now if he decides to decertify. But what he's decertifying is Iran's compliance with the deal. So he'll really have to articulate what he really means by them not complying. The IAEA, the UN's nuclear watchdog, has said that Iran is complying with the technicalities of the deal, certainly in terms of their inspections. But Trump might widen the net a bit and say that they're defying the spirit of the deal by these ballistic missile tests. He will also very likely talk about their activities in the region, destabilizing activities, supporting their proxies like Hezbollah. And I think that's what we'll see next week. He'll be presenting some kind of argument to renegotiate at least part of the deal. That's what I would think would happen.
Michael Shure, it's always dangerous for any of us to try to figure out what's on President Trump's mind, but I'm going to ask you this anyway. Why would the president, if he is talking about Iran, why would he talk about the calm before the storm while he's surrounded by U.S. senior military officers and their spouses whose job it is to help the United States in a war?
Yeah, you would think that would put these people ill at ease at the very least, and it's a dangerous thing to do to our military wherever they're stationed. Are they going to spend the entire weekend wondering what's going to happen? I think that he was being playful in his own way, and it's you know, it's not necessarily a very presidential way. Little that he does seems to fit that mold. But I think, David, that part of what he's trying to do is move away from the weeks that he's had. These have not been good weeks for the president, and have people looking forward to what is next. And that's his motive in this, in this teasing of the press. I also think he loves to see the press not know what to do about these things. He loves to put them in a tizzy. And look at us. We're sitting and talking about it, so it's working. And it's not just working on this network. It's working in newspapers. It's working on other networks. So it's mission accomplished for that. The question is, when he gets to next week, is he going to be able to live up to that? And if it's just this Iran nuclear deal, I think a lot of people will be actually quite happy, because it's something that's expected.
And Michael, we're getting the indication that the president will make his decision sometime next week. We don't know what day. We don't know exactly what he'll say. We have a hint, but we're waiting for that announcement, right?
That's right. It has to come before the 15th. That's the deadline. They have these 90-day deadlines, Derek, where that was put into the bill from the very beginning. They have to go 90 days, every 90 days, to recertify it. So it'll happen at some point next week, probably at a time when nobody is expecting it, but it may just be something that he's excited to do, and we'll call everybody to the East Room on Thursday morning and say, this is what we're doing.
Senior National Correspondent Michael Shure, Senior Diplomatic Correspondent Nina Larsen, and Matthew RJ Brodsky, Senior Fellow at the Security Studies Group. Thank you all. Still ahead on Crossroads, Saudi Arabia.